I love working with a team towards a common goal.
For the camaraderie.
Camaraderie and playing with my teammates.
I play for my team.
Teamwork and the connections that I can build on and off field.
For the community and the exercise.
Because of the community and the competition.
I like playing Ultimate Frisbee for the competition.
I play for the competition and the fun.
For fun.
Because fun.
I love getting to work hard.
You get out of it what you put into it.
Leave everything out here.
Every time I step on the field, I want to be a better player.
You know, give something people to talk about.
Be happy but never satisfied.
To step away from real life and focus on Frisbee.
I play because I love Ultimate.
Find your drive.
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 Hello, and we're back for our third game of the day, and this is our crossover between Quest from Quebec, Quebec City, and Crank from Ottawa, a hometown team. Les deux équipes ont déjà se confronté deux fois cette année, une fois à Boston et une autre fois à No Borders ici. Et jusqu'à maintenant, c'est Crank qui a gagné les deux reprises et Quest nous ont dit que c'est leur fois, cette fois c'est leur match. Ils ont été pour ces third time lucky. Les deux équipes sont, Crank a terminé deuxième dans leur pool, Quest a terminé troisième dans leur pool, mais ils ont perdu deux matchs très tight pour rendu ici. And the game is on. We've got Quest in blue and we've got Crank in white. I'm here, Rose Carlton, with
Mika Young. So Crank started with a pull. That was a quick point there, just right into the end zone.
And Quest right away making a statement saying, we're not shy to put it up, don't just stop us on the in cuts. Quest known a little for their ISO handler movement. So in fact, what they did just there was completely different from what they're used to usually doing.
Switching it up a little bit. They definitely want to win this game just after talking to them, and they'll do whatever they got to do.
And that was Dubé Higgins with the catch in the end zone. I'm sorry, I was talking, so I missed who actually threw it. But Dubé Higgins wide completely on his own in the end zone. Easy catch, easy score. Now let's see what Quest can do on defense. And on offense, we've got Cantel, Daly, I can't see everybody's name, Hunter, and it is a 3 female matching point and 4 male matching players point.
So pull coming in now. Big pull, not too windy. The wind has been picking up a little bit, but it's pretty nice and chill right now. Some easy, quick passes. On the sideline now, recentering it to number 10.
Hunter. And a gorgeous layout D by Jordan Lavoie. And Quest seems pumped up for this game, don't you think, Micah?
Yes, they definitely are. Already we've seen big play on offense, and they want it back on defense.
So setting up with a straightforward stack and isolated player at the front of the stack.
Open, looks a bit poachy. Resetting back.
To Pimai.
Looks like a pick is called in the stack there. A nice undercut there. Resetting back into the middle and a swing, just short of the end zone.
Lucier doing a lot of work in the front and just unfortunate, a little bit too low.
Super vocal as well. You can hear them from up here. Knowing that, just telling their teammates that they're open.
Hunter with the disc. Looking for an open cut, settling for his reset.
Needs a cut. Great defensive pressure, but just not able to get there.
A lot of communication from Crank amongst their players on the field.
Yeah, and I've watched them a few times, and I noticed they're pretty chill with the disc, which is something you want to be on offense.
Over to Daly.
Crank on the sideline, putting it up for 23, but just sailing too long.
Yeah, so Caitlin Fontaine there. She had a good cut. She was ahead of her player, and just a little bit over her head. There is some wind, so it is floating a little bit more than I think the players are. I think they'll get used to it as they're going on, as the game goes on. But starting a little bit, just get the disc, gets comfortable in their hands.
Just pushing it up the middle.
Alors, looking for cuts in, little high.
And D by.
And that's a great D by Heather Wallace.
Yeah. She's had good positioning on her player this point.
And a loopy,
but a great grab.
That was an incredible
beating.
Incredible grab by Hunter. You know, the throw from Tremblay-La Rochelle. I don't know if I would have thrown it, but I trust he obviously had a lot of faith in his receiver, and for good reason.
Yeah, there are 2 defenders there, and he got it, so.
And let's see what Quest is going to bring on.
Yeah, so tied at 1-1 now, so just trading points so far, the first 2 points.
No, Quest got the first D break of the game.
That's true.
So so Quest got a break for the game for the first point.
Yeah.
Crank held, but but not without an option being awarded to Quest. I've heard some of the European commentators call that a dirty hold.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Crank with the pull coming up from Simmons.
Big pull.
Catching it in, not letting it drop out of bounds.
Just recentering. It looks like some poachy D there. On the far sideline.
So that's Martel with the disc, looking over to Dubé-Higgins, swinging it back over to Duguay. And just a nice
That's a
save
great
for
grab,
grab.
and they're calling it in and up. Just recentering back in the middle.
I love that when a player makes a great grab and then does a nice simple dump. It's a great conservation of greatness, but she, unfortunately, Provencher just a little bit too short for the bidding player.
Really good effort, and Crank absolutely.
Podmore with the disc. Nice read going up the line.
Yeah, strong defensive pressure, but able to get there in time. On the sideline.
And all alone in the end zone, but a travel is called. And on Perry, so the disc is going to be coming back to Perry.
And we've got our observers out there helping run the game. So big shout out to them.
So as we've talked about in other streams, the observers are not there to make the calls, but they can give advice in terms of the rules and can give an opinion if asked.
Yes.
If they give an opinion, their call stands. Over to Podmore.
Looking for something.
And a lovely IO break force throw from Podmore. Chest bump with the receiver. And a simple backhand to the end zone. A nice break, some movement from break, and that's a break from Crank. So now Quest coming up has to, just as Crank did, let's see what Quest can do in a response to all of that, to that kind of defensive pressure. Switching over now, this will be a 4 female matching player point. We see some players crossing over, playing this point again from Quest, including Dubé-Higgins. We'll see. I think they have a lot of faith in his ability to move the disc. Is what I've noticed in a handler position.
Definitely a lot of trust in him.
And on Crank's side, what are you seeing over here?
Yeah, I'm seeing, like I had mentioned before, they're very chill with the disc, but they are able to move it fast when they need to. Identifying that is really important, and trusting their teammates to be open and catch it.
Right,
great
quick
pull.
on the mark from Scarf.
To Duguay. Oh, looks like there's a call.
I believe it was a pick call.
Yes.
And not saying that he had a play on the disc, but that he couldn't get there to put the mark on. So the disc stays where it is.
Looking deep, just faking that.
Disc over into the hands of Dubé-Higgins, and another call. Again, this is going to be a pick call. And a discussion as to whether or not the disc is going to be moving somewhere or staying where it is. Actually, I believe it was an injury call, so we've got Hugh Podmore subbing in.
Yes. looks to be that.
And so because it's an injury call, it goes back to the to where the disc was when the injury was called. Everybody has to try to figure out where they were when the injury, actually it's when the injury happened, not rather than when it was called. So it's back into the hands of Boucher-Kirouac, who had made it earlier, a really nice cut into the open space.
So on the sideline.
Over to Martel and up the line.
Yeah.
Nice grab by number 55, Bordeaux-Chabot.
Great movement from Quest, moving it up. Again, being chill with it, but pushing it when they have to.
I think Quest should be happy with that point. After being broken on the previous one, to come back with a clean O hold is exactly what they need to maintain their confidence and to keep themselves in the game. Obviously, it's right now the score is only 2-2. We've got a long way to go for the rest of this game, but it's important for neither team to let the other team think that I've got this.
Yeah, and they worked their way up the field prior to the injury call as well, and that was evident, and that really helped them get that point.
I wouldn't mind if Quest, I wouldn't be angry if Quest decided to use a little bit more of the width of the field on a point like that. At the same time, every cut was open. So if I were Crank right now, I'd be like, I think we need to stop some of those in cuts.
Yeah,
we need to work on some of that tight, more intense defense.
A beautiful pull. Crank picking up and immediately centering it.
Wallace still with the disc in her hand, looking for an option. Tight defense coming in from Crank there. Or not from Crank, from Quest.
Quick pass on the sideline. A nice attempt to keep that disc alive, but just not able to grab it. And Quest immediately putting it up.
No hesitation to send that long to Allard, who had made a great cut. The disc just kept flying further than I think the thrower intended. Don't forget, if you look over at the flags, there is some wind on the field, so the disc is going perhaps not exactly where the players are, going a little further than where the players are intending it to go.
Tried for that up the line, but just not able to get it. So it's a Quest disc again.
Say Michel Houle, who's got the disc right now, I think.
Yeah, centering back in the middle. Wide open cut there. And into the end zone, 96.
From
Allard.
Lucier with the throw, and Allard with the catch. And that's Quest with a break.
She
going up
definitely
3-2 to Crank.
Yep, she deserved that point as well. She was running it deep in to the end zone.
It's
the
true.
pass possession and just wasn't able to grab it.
So I think Crank might be coming out with a little bit of surprise. Actually, maybe not. Both teams were saying to us that in previous matchups it's been very close. Both teams, having played against each other, were expecting this to be a tight game. We're expecting that it could go either way. As I mentioned before, it's gone Crank's way in the past, but Quest never far away.
Yeah, very close games previously, so that's what they're expecting this game, and we'll see who comes out on top.
And on Quest with the pull, just figuring out who they wanted to mark up against.
Yes.
And with Crank, Alyssa Mainwood in the center. We've got Katie Toogood and Heather Wallace.
Just centering it. Great cuts.
And a little stagnant in the front, but it was able to find some space.
It's on the far sideline, put up.
And
Just
again,
the wind
too
there,
far
yeah.
on that side.
Yeah.
I think that's the third or fourth one that we've seen sail past the receiver on that long put along the far sideline. Quest with another opportunity to break, but they've got to move it all the way upfield this time.
Some really nice cuts under there.
Back in the hands of Dubé-Higgins.
He is speedy. Just watching him.
Nice
cut
grab
there.
by St. Jean. Over to Dubé-Higgins.
Need someone cut under for him or reset. So on the far sideline, holstering it.
Back to St. Jean. Oh, and just past the hands of Fortier.
Yeah.
Mainwood with the bringing the disc into play. A little bit of a low throw, but well collected.
Great grab
by Wallace. Swing around.
In the middle, needs someone under, reset. Nice open cut on the far sideline. Great defensive effort again by Quest.
Hunter with a long and caught out of bounds. I think we're waiting just for the observers to give the there is a call in the play. I think that the catch looked to have been out of bounds, but the question is, was he pushed out of bounds? I think he's now looking. They're having a discussion amongst themselves. They see the observers having a discussion amongst themselves, and I believe they've gone to the observers to make a call. So now you see the orange jerseys huddling to see to talk about who had best perspective here. Did any one of them have perspective to make that call? And if not, it's likely. If not, it'll go back to thrower. As we mentioned earlier, if either one of the two players involved in a call decides to go to the observer for a ruling, the ruling of the observer stands. In this situation, it seems like none of the observers felt comfortable having a clear perspective, so the disc is going back to the thrower. So it's as if it's a contested call.
And let's see what they will do now. Obviously, they have those throws into the end zone, but will they be patient?
Yeah. So back in the hands of Hunter, who decided to swing it over.
Lots of fakes there.
The wind is actually playing a role right now in some of those throws. Some of those higher release throws, the floaty OIs, are just going further than than the thrower or the receiver is expecting.
Quest picking up immediately, putting
to St. Jean. St. Jean looking for her dump. Not a lot of options, but finds Bordeaux-Chabot up line.
Resetting back to St. Jean.
Over to Prévencher and back to St. Jean. St. Jean doing a lot of the work in the backfield here.
Yeah, lots of great handler movement from her. And she's open once again on the far sideline.
Not so sure that she was.
I don't think that was the
looking for
intended
Fortier
player,
right there,
yeah.
but Fortier's smart collection.
Into the end zone it goes.
Beautiful break force throw from Prévencher. So that is another break for Quest.
Yeah. If you were Crank right now, what would you be looking to do?
I would I would say we need to concentrate on possession.
Yeah.
We need to concentrate on creating space in the middle of the field. There's a few times I've looked up, and there's been some clogging in the middle, and they're not yet taking a timeout, but I can see the coaches. I can see Jamie Boss and John Haig, a couple, by the way, a long-time ultimate couple in the Ottawa community, calling a line. I'm sure they're calling players who they have a lot of confidence in terms of being able to move the disc up the field with precision, and perhaps not. I'm curious if this is like. Ideally, this is just keep possession, keep it clean, some nice clean cuts, create space, play as a team, and don't panic. There's a ton of game left to play. There's no reason for Crank to start panicking at this stage. There is a reason for Quest to put even more pressure. Maintenant, si jamais j'étais le coach de Quest, j'aurais dit à tout le monde, c'est maintenant, ça c'est, ne lâche pas. On a le momentum, il faut mettre la pression même plus fort pour force and get in their heads.
Yeah, huge pull again. Just recentering it. Being patient with the disc, as you were saying there. Making sure that they are throwing to their intended throw. Shannon with it now.
And another throw that's been picked up by the wind. Shannon had a good option there, and unfortunately just a little too high. Quest slowly walking it up to the disc. We've got Ul with the disc, looking for one of their usual front of the stack isolated players, number 16, Lucier. And a nice break force throw, and I think that was to Vic Trahan. Another break for Quest.
Yeah.
Would you call a timeout right now if you were Crank?
I would. A couple breaks in a row. They just, even if they're energized, they just need a quick second to recollect themselves, figure out a game plan.
And they have. And they have called a timeout. We see from the observers giving us the sign saying that there's a timeout from Crank. I appreciate the hand signals from the observers. You know, I think right now Crank needs to figure out just how to get back into their game. They're a little stagnant as looking for cuts off their pull play. Their attempts to reset the disc are getting caught in the wind. They know how to play ultimate.
Yeah, and they've matched up with Quest multiple times and come out with the win. So they know what they're doing. They just have to take a break, collect themselves, and play Frisbee. It's
true.
Yeah.
You know, go out there, throw with your friends. Like, don't get stressed. Use this just as a moment to regroup. Use it a moment to remind ourselves why we love playing this game. We're out here in the unceded territories of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe peoples, and you know, playing ultimate on this kind of, we are privileged to be playing ultimate on this land, and to be able to come out here and play with joy, with spirit of the game, give respect to our opponents as well as to the land that we're playing on. Like, what could be better?
I know, and to make it this far into the season and doing really well, both teams, I'm sure they're both happy to be here in this moment.
They're happy to be in this moment. I think they now want more.
Yeah.
Both teams want to be top 8. That's their objective for the next hour or so. And so we've got Lucier with the pull.
Just out.
Just sails slightly out of bounds. Pretty close to like the level of the brick mark, so I see Crank's going to bring it into the brick. Tremblay La Rochelle with the disc. Being marked by Plumel.
So in the center, looking for some cuts. Recentering it back, being patient.
A lot of pressure on that defense, but well reeled in by Campbell, I believe. Nope, not Campbell. That was Somerville.
Looking for a reset. No one there for him.
And again with a long reset throw, just out of reach. That disc is going to hang there. Can she get? And great defense, great read by Somerville. Clean.
Good effort offensively too. Just a bit of a mismatch there, but she was running it down.
Yeah, unfortunately when you've got, in mixed we'll see that sometimes where a male matching player will drop off to cover a female matching player into the end zone. And even though she was fast, she had a good read on it. There's something you can't do about height.
Crank back with the disc on the far sideline, just in the corner almost.
Crank doing a nice job of trying to cut into the space, and defensive pressure and a foul call. A foul call by Ainsley Shannon. There's some discussion going on, and the players are just working it out amongst themselves. And they've agreed to disagree, not consulting with the observers in this occasion. They've just decided to agree to disagree, disc back to the thrower. So Crank was sort of like a diagonal stack at this moment. Looking for the swing around. Just to Mertens Kirkwood looking for an option.
Finds
in the hands of Shannon. And Mertens Kirkwood with a throw into the end zone and a defense from Quest. He had two options in the end zone there, and it was that option I think was a pretty good throw, but it was an incredible defensive play. And I wish he would turn around so I could see who did it. Yep, it is Pluma with the defensive play. Thanks for turning around and give me your number. Back to Wolves, Pluma.
Great cut under there.
You see doing a lot of those cuts close to the in the handler set.
Just looking to put it. Pluma again.
Look.
Deep look. And let's see.
What?
He got there.
Pluma with a good follow-up with the double happiness. You know, got the D on the one side and an I-O backhand that I really thought was gonna you know, laser out the back end, but just managed to find a little bit of float and into the hands of his receiver. So that's, I think, 3 breaks in a row. We've got 6 for Quest, 2 for Crank. I actually think Crank came out better than they had in the earlier points.
Yeah, they were definitely more patient, taking their time. I think they really needed that timeout, reset, figure out what they wanted to do.
I think they also were creating a little bit more space. It's when the disc is getting a higher stall count in the hands of the handlers, I found that Crank sometimes has more than one cutter coming in, which makes it much harder for both the cutter and the thrower.
Noticed that as well, and looked like it helped them a lot.
So we're seeing some different players coming out here for Crank. And I was looking over at Crank, but I've just realized that Quest right now has called a timeout in a huddle. This kind of huddle, this kind of timeout, what do you think Quest is going to get out of that timeout?
I'm sure as well they're just high energy, want to collect themselves. Again, it's very early on in the game, even though they are ahead.
Yeah.
You know, bringing it down into the moment, remembering what they want out of this game.
It's also interesting. They're coming into with a defensive point. I see Lucier again with the disc with the pull. I think she's their usual puller when it's a 4 female matching player point. Sometimes bringing in that kind of huddle, you can gain energy from each other. They want to come out with this. They want to come out in this defensive point and put even more pressure on Crank. And it's got. I believe that's Perry picking up the disc over to Podmore. Podmore looking for something, finding Hindman in the middle of the field.
She looked to be wide open too.
Over to Simmons, looking for something, turning his whole body around to give him an option for throwing that back to across the field. Nice find, nice grab from Hindman.
She's looking.
And
she's looking at that reset.
Just a little bit of stress with the disc, not a lot of options. It was a high stall count.
Yeah.
And again, when you've got a high stall count like that, throwing it into the end zone, and it was a nice throw, it was flat, she absolutely had a target. Just Lucier was there to make the D.
Quest picking up. Great grab. Looking to reset it back.
I'm just saying, Jean.
Pushing it up the sideline. Resetting back to the middle.
Martel looking for a wide throw and just a little bit too far for Marco. So Crank with another opportunity to keep this hold. Perry going back to the disc. And setting up with a horizontal stack. Slashing across from number 93 Simmons.
Holstering it there. Big D.
Another layout defense from number 89 Martel. And just a bit too low.
Great attempt.
Yeah, Martel with the beautiful defense. Sometimes when you make a great defensive throw like that, take an easy option and get back moving.
Crank picking up.
Podmore and Perry playing a little catch.
Great cut under.
Simmons. And Shannon with the disc near the in the red zone.
Perry back with the disc, hammering it.
And hammer,
Huge
just a little too floaty.
play.
And oh, there's a call on the play here. And I believe there's a injury call. So we see Plumal coming in to take the place of Martel, and we see Hindman coming off, and I'm afraid I didn't see who came on to take her place for Crank.
Neither.
Oh, yeah,
coming on now.
I believe that is
Fontaine. Yeah.
So the turnover stands. It is Quest's disc. Plumal going back to pick it up. And with an isolated debate, oh no, it's a horizontal stack in front.
Nice slash across.
Nice, some good handler movement. Nice break throw.
St. Jean's always seems to be open.
St. Jean is open a lot, you're absolutely right. And over to Plumel, and
shoot, even open there, but just looking deep.
this is going to be a tough, let's see what happens with the wind. And of course, with it hanging in the air, it gave lots of time for Simmons to get in there, to basically running half the field, or at least a third of the field, to go in and get that D. There's some hang time.
So Perry picking up.
Calling a timeout.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of turnovers. I like this hug between Gay Higgins and Simmons. I think those were the two in the end zone who are both going up for the hammer. And just to check in with each other, everything was good. I saw them earlier slap hands saying like, no, it was good. We're all good. There's no call. And it's one of these things I love about Ultimate is that ability to stay friends even when we're in the middle, when we're adversaries on the field.
Yeah, spirit of the game is huge. And I was about to say the same thing, despite being fierce competitors. They're all very friendly with each other. I've seen them all kind of check in on each other. Multiple occasions already this game.
Yeah, I like that communication, and obviously these teams they're not strangers to one another. So over the summer, they've probably gotten to know the same see the same faces, and to see some similar matchups too. So they probably know who to match up, who's a good matchup to have too. So Perry walking back to the disc. Let's see what they set up. Again, going back to that horizontal stack, which seems to be working for them in terms of creating a bit more space than what they had before with the vertical stack.
Definitely, and using the whole width of the field, you can see the players right by each sideline, and offense is set, so defense is setting now. It looks like.
And Quest is setting up with one female matching player as a poaching in the lane. Her player is the third handler on the far side. So they're looking to disrupt that. Didn't quite go as planned, but you still see Lucier hanging out here.
Wow.
Leaving her female matching player to go deep.
And a great grab by Perry.
And now catching up. Hodmore all the way, totally alone in the middle of the end zone, or the field. Throwing into the end zone to Simmons.
And that's a point for Crank.
Crank's got to be happy about that.
Yeah, they wanted that one, and that was a long point. A lot of turnovers, timeout.
Absolutely. It was a well-utilized timeout, I would say. They set up their play, and I think Quest right there, they did what they wanted to do in terms of setting a poach in the lane, but it kind of blew when the male matching player who was covering Podmore near the middle dropped off to cover a female matching player who was alone heading to the end zone. So Podmore was all alone to collect the disc in the middle close to the end zone. And a smart, nice throw into the end zone to Simmons. I'm curious to see if Quest will do that again, that type of defense.
Possibly. It didn't work out in their favor that time, but
I'm sure,
it's a good play.
Especially in a mixed game when you see like if one team is using a lot of their male matching players more than their female matching players, it's a good utilization of a female matching player in a defensive role.
Exactly, and just change it up a little bit, you know.
So Quest in the position of receiving, which they haven't been for a while.
Yeah, let's see what they'll do. So great pull.
It's collected by
Duguay.
Provencher, over to Duguay, back to Provencher.
Looking for a reset. And putting it deep for number 4.
And she's going to read that well. Nice read by Languepé. Back over to Martel. Oh. I think I would have torn something.
Yeah, that looked painful. Lucier again. The assist into the end zone.
To Gendra. That was a really nice, clean play. And Quest scored there at about 4 or 5 throws.
Yeah.
Every single throw was to a player who was open in space and not sort of like messed up by the clogging of his or her or their other teammates. So it looks like we have another timeout. This time it must be Quest who's calling the timeout.
Yes.
Making sure to use a timeout. It's 7-3. Quest wants to come back here with a defensive point to take half.
Definitely.
So I wonder, are they calling a type of defense, or are they going to stick to playing person-focused defense, which is what they've mostly been doing sometimes with a poach? We'll see.
Yeah, and their person D has been working out for them, so I mean, why change something if it's working? But let's see what they decide to do.
Good point. Don't fix what's not broken.
Exactly.
And Crank, of course, does not want this point to take us to half.
Yeah.
They definitely want us to take this point to go a little longer with this half and to regain some of their own momentum. And observers reminding them that it's time. Timeouts are not supposed to be longer than 90 seconds, I believe. 60 seconds for offense to set, or for, in this case, defense to set on a pull, and offense to set, and then defense. I'm gonna have to clarify that, I screwed it up. 70 seconds. Thank you very much. Being corrected by our cameraman Clay here, giving me some advice about the time that a timeout is allowed to be. Clay tells me that's all he talks about is the rules and time. So we've got Crank setting up on offense,
trying to figure out
and I think
which point.
It is a 4 male matching player point. The pull is up and collected rather than letting that drop out, and Disc is saying that it's up but bent, maybe? Asking to see. So it looks to me that he's saying that the disc is bent, but in fact, in terms of equipment, you can
does look
usually
a little
you're
bit.
Not allowed to change equipment unless there's an actual stoppage in the play. It seems to be that they're hugging it out. They're both agreeing that let's go, let's play with a disc that can actually fly, and the observers are going ahead to let them do that.
Again, great spirit of the game there. Obviously competitors, but very friendly.
Also, I have to say, for us viewers, it's way more fun to watch a disc that flies pretty instead of flies sloppy.
You could see from up here that it didn't look right.
So Crank in a dangerous place, and the Quest sideline calling for a Callahan. Still playing around in their own end zone.
Huge bid as well to try and get that D. Sending it deep.
Sending it deep. This is going to
what a grab.
Beautifully read by Somerville. And Somerville making a great bid, but there is a call. Somerville playing the hero, and now the call is retracted. Oh no, the call is not retracted. There's a question, I think, about whether or not the disc was down when he caught it. And we have a cameraman in the back of the end zone, clearly looking back at the pictures to see whether or not he had a vision of it.
Yeah.
Players are allowed to consult with media on the sidelines if they agree to it. That they're agreeing that it's down and the disc is in the hands of Quest.
And again, shaking hands after deciding that.
Yeah. And
Fortier
with the disc, looking for her dump. Nice IO, lefty backhand. I think she is a lefty.
Into the middle.
Back over to Fortier. Saint-Jean. Lavoie to somebody else over to
33. Marco.
And a nice save by Primal, who sends it long, looking for a tall receiver.
Wow.
In Lavoie, who brings it in, taking Quest to half.
Great patience. Definitely could have jumped up there, but sailed right into his hands.
It was a really nice throw. It was a great read, and it was a good target. He's tall. So, going into half, Crank, if you were the coach, what would you be telling Crank?
I think they just need a second. I think use this half to collect themselves. Like I mentioned, I have seen them before, and I've watched them play, and just that patience on offense, I think, is definitely something that has worked for them, and I think just being reminded of that.
They look like they're playing a little nervous to me.
They definitely are.
And so anyways, we're going to take a break for right now. And Clay is going to do a couple of interviews with us. We've got John Haig and Victoria Trahan who will come up here and give us some interviews. First of all, pour tous les Québécois qui sont ici pour écouter Quest, c'est certainement Quest a amené beaucoup de pression, beaucoup d'intensité et ainsi des bons mouvements de disque en offense. Je suis certaine qu'ils veulent continuer à faire la même chose dans la deuxième demi. On va prendre un petit break et retourner dans quelques minutes avec une entrevue avec des personnes des deux équipes. OK, je suis ici avec Victoria, Vic Trahan. Il y en a beaucoup ici qui déjà connaissent c'est qui toi, mais je suis vraiment désolée d'apprendre que tu es blessée. Qu'est-ce qui est arrivé?
Oui, c'est ça. Il y a 2 semaines à la pratique, j'ai fait un layout puis mon épaule a disloqué. Là, donc, je suis en recovery en ce moment. Fait que malheureusement, je peux pas être sur le terrain avec mon équipe. Donc, c'est
Mais selon moi, j'ai déjà dit que toi, tu as eu le but, donc j'ai besoin de corriger ça plus tard. Mais donc, même si moi, dans ma tête, tu étais toujours là.
Ah, mais je suis tellement avec l'équipe. Mon cœur là, est tellement sur le terrain en ce moment. C'est vraiment excitant comme game, vraiment.
Oui, mais comment ça va sur la sideline avec Quest maintenant?
Je pense... nous, on dit tout le temps « never too high, never too low ». So, on essaie vraiment d'être pas trop excité, pas trop calme, trouver de bons juste milieu. Donc, je dirais qu'en ce moment, on est en contrôle vraiment sur le sideline. On cheer nos coéquipiers, puis on a vraiment confiance en tous les joueurs qui sont sur le terrain, vraiment.
Et qu'est-ce que l'équipe veut faire pour le deuxième demi? Qu'est-ce que tu penses?
Je pense qu'on continue comme ça, exactement comme ça. On les connaît, Crank, ça va faire la 3e fois qu'on joue contre eux. On a joué contre eux à Boston, on a joué contre eux au No Borders, ouais. Puis, donc, on sait c'est quoi leur force, on sait leurs bons joueurs parce qu'ils ont des excellents joueurs puis tout le monde attrape tout, là. Ils donnent tout jusqu'à la fin, qu'on sait qu'il faut qu'on reste vraiment tête sur nos joueurs parce qu'ils vont tout donner jusqu'à la fin, vraiment, là. Donc, je pense que c'est ça. On va continuer à jouer beaucoup aussi avec nos filles. Tu sais, je pense qu'on a des excellentes filles dans notre équipe. Vraiment, c'est ça. Donc, on va continuer comme ça, puis on garde l'énergie haute, on garde le pied sur la pédale, puis on n'arrête pas jusqu'à la fin, vraiment.
Mais c'est clair que maintenant, vous avez commencé avec une intensité très, très haute et j'imagine que vous aimeriez continuer avec la même chose pour le deuxième demi.
Oui, c'est ça, vraiment.
Donc, je te bonne chance pour le deuxième demi. Je ne peux pas prendre des choix entre les deux équipes, donc je dis aussi bonne chance aux Crank. Mais ce que pour tous les viewers, qu'on veut juste un bon match. Donc,
oui,
et bonne
excellent
chance
match.
pour tout le tournoi.
Merci beaucoup.
And we're back. So, as we were talking with Victoria Trahan, I think Quest, with their never too high, never too low mentality, they're going to come back with trying to maintain an intensity, at the same time not too intense to lose their focus on offense. We didn't get a chance to talk to Crank, but what do you imagine they're going to come out with right now? They're starting on 0.
Yeah, I think took the half going into taking a break, getting their energy back, and like you said, I think something that we saw was spacing.
Yeah.
That was really working for them, doing a host stack. So we'll see if they come out with that again.
And we're starting with 4 women matching player lines for both teams, obviously both teams. And we've got the usual Lucier with the disc and the pole in her hands. Earlier I said that it was Vic Trahan who'd scored a point. Clearly it wasn't Vic, given that she's injured. So I'm sorry to the player who did catch the score. I will do better. I will try to do better.
And Quest ready with the pull.
Great pull landing in.
Perry.
And quick movement from Perry to center the disc. In the hands of Hindman, looking for her to recenter, back to Perry, over to Schuld. Schuld just a little over top, but saved by Hindman. And there is a call on the play. I believe it's a pick call, as Lavoie was trying to follow his player and just got caught up there with Lucier.
And great heads-up awareness by Hindman, just being able to get that disc and bring it down.
It's true. When it's a bit windy, you can never give up on a disc and assume it's a turnover. Just every time you go to it. Still some conversation. I think just around positioning. Fontaine is not covered right now, but running back towards the stack.
Trying to get reset. Wow. Great
Tight,
grab.
tight defense from Kumaya.
And he's been doing that all game. And again, Heinemann.
Heinemann reeling it in. That's, I think, really Heinemann's point.
Yeah, it was.
She touched it about 5 times, 1 save, and then a great read in the back of the end, in the far side of the end zone. Again, I'm not sure that was the option that he was throwing for, but but she's a good target. She's tall. She's got good hands.
She was there twice in a row for that disc.
So Crank coming out with a clean hold. I'm sure that's exactly what their game plan was, exactly what they wanted to do. And we see Quest's O-line coming out. We have Bordeaux, Chabot, Saint-Jean, I think.
Yes, some very key players to their offensive line.
Fortier, again with a 4 women matching lineup.
And Quest has been really good with everyone's touching the disc, everyone's open.
Yeah, and I'm impressed with both teams, and it's one of the keys to playing mixed ultimate is to play with your women matching players. And oftentimes when it doesn't work, it's because teams reduce the number of players touching the disc by focusing potentially mostly on their male matching players, which neither team is doing. And just a communication error there between Duguay and Duguay-Higgins.
Another great read.
That's
Nesbitt with the disc in hand.
I'm actually not sure if that is Nesbitt. I was told that Nesbitt was injured and not playing. Anyways, Nesbitt's
That's
number.
what I thought too. Yeah. Maybe she's back for this game.
If so, good for her.
Yes.
And a reset to where everybody was at the time of the call.
Goes back.
Oh, and it goes back with a contested call. I believe it was a foul contest on the cut. Checking in what the stall count was, and both players figuring it out. If it's a contest, the stall does not go over 6.
Great reset.
And Duguay-Higgins coming back to collect with that defense and immediately running long for a beautiful throw from Duguay. I don't know if Duguay and Duguay-Higgins are related, but they seem to connect well on the field.
Yeah, very open in the end zone and no pressure there, so he got it.
Yeah, I actually don't know who he was on because he'd poached in to get that defense and then just continued his movement all the way into the end zone. And Duguay had good, quick reaction to see how wide open and alone he was in the end zone. And we are going into a timeout, I believe, called by Crank. And Crank coming out with a nice clean first hold. They got a D, so they had a chance right there. And I think it was just a little bit of a mixed, actually it was Quest who's called the timeout. I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. So Quest called the timeout. And Crank, like I said, they had an option, they got the D, they had a chance there. And Quest, again, this is the 3rd time now that they've called a timeout when they've just scored. I find that interesting. Oftentimes we see teams call a timeout when they're the ones who have been scored on a couple of times to refocus and collect. But I wonder if this has to do with Quest's sort of never too high, never too low strategies. Like, okay, let's not get the energy too far beyond us that we can't reel it back in, and let's get focused back on the field. Crank needs to get focused again and back on the field. O-line coming out. And this time we've turned to the 4 male matching player lineups. We have Mertens Kirkwood, again with Heinemann coming back out, the person who scored their last point in the end zone. Tremblay La Rochelle, who we've seen quite a lot of movement from throughout the game.
Some very key players for them on this O-line.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of Alyssa Mainwood as a center handler, and I suspect she'll continue to play that role throughout the rest of this game.
Quest pulling.
Of course, right now she's gone straight into the horizontal stack, so they're starting with a 3 male matching player handlers.
Great pressure, but
great grab by Fontaine with some pressure on her back. Mainwood also collecting with pressure, with a tight pressure from Quest, from Longuepay.
There's a call.
Yep. And disc stays where it is. Swing over to Mertens Kirkwood, back over to Perry. Perry surveying the field, and a beautiful IO pass over to Scarf. Scarf looking for his dump, not that, and an unfortunate drop and foul, non-contest. Yeah. There was a lot of pressure on that.
There was.
So Marco not contesting the foul call, knows that there was contact.
Perry immediately resetting it.
Over to Mertens Kirkwood, back over to Scarf. Mertens Kirkwood and Scarf just happy to play some catch. Back to Perry.
This
Mainwood.
Is different. They're doing a vert stack instead of their hoe stack that we've been seeing.
Well, they started with their hoe stack, and once they move upfield, they drop into a flow vert stack. And this time in the end zone, they see how much they left that space on both sides for that break throw. And Mertens Kirkwood, his defender was right behind him. I believe it was Perry. He threw the disc. I apologize if I got that wrong, but it was a gorgeous IO flick into the end zone.
It was, and I'm sure that's something they talked about, leaving that space, and when they are on the end zone line, be chill, create that space.
And create some discipline. Like, I think that's what maybe they've been missing a little bit, is some discipline in some of their cutting, and especially in the end zone. A few times in that first half, we saw everybody wanting the disc instead of everybody working together as a team to make sure the score happens.
Yeah, and they looked well collected that point. Lots of touches and patience.
Okay, so we've got 20 minutes to the soft time cap. So there's still lots of time for the hard time cap. Again, thank you, Clay. So the Crank still has lots of time to come back. We've still got Quest. Nice pull. Sorry about that. Nice floating pull.
The pressure coming down
horizontal.
On that pull.
Over to Fortier. Swing pass over, but nothing happening in the front. St. Jean isolated in the middle. Looking over to her dump into the middle and immediately cutting.
Great cut.
Martel with a beautiful throw into the end zone, just a little too high and just off the tips of his fingers, so Crank is going to have a chance.
Yeah, again, that end zone, it keeps sailing over their heads
It
a little
does.
bit. We've seen that a couple of times now on both ends, both teams. So,
You're right.
and we're seeing Crank back in their host stack. What a
And Dubé Higgins with another defense, but agreeing that there was too much contact, so the disc stays in the hands of Simmons.
and violation wasn't tapped in yet.
And it's the defense who taps it in. Shannon to great grab from Schuld. Looking over to Podmore in the middle of the field. Looking for a continuation and a defense.
Yeah.
Clean this time from Martel.
Looks like
But
an
there seems
injury.
to be a call somewhere else on the field.
Injury just on our side of the field here.
So number 16, Schuld, is coming off and being replaced by Perry, an injury call. And Provencher is going to take the opportunity to also switch in a player from Quest, who I believe is Lavoie.
Yes.
Disc stays where it is right now, which is being collected by Duguay.
Saint-Jean.
Immediate IO flick over to Saint-Jean.
Quickly to the middle, and great effort to keep his foot in there.
Very
for the
smart
point.
with a
Yeah.
floaty disc that you know is sort of curling slightly out of bounds. Make sure that foot stays in bounds, especially directly in front of an observer who's looking at your feet as you're catching that.
Exactly. Smart move there.
So it is currently 10-5 for Quest. Quest right now, they have a solid lead. Do you
Yeah.
think they can feel comfortable with that lead?
Definitely, they've been up for quite a lot of the game today. So I think something that I've noticed that has definitely helped them keep this lead is their defense.
Yeah.
They have had amazing defensive bids, just a lot of pressure on their mark, and that's definitely helped them turn it and get the break.
Such a good point. Such a good point. And we have, I don't know if this is timeout or a line call. I'm waiting for a signal from the observers. I've noticed as well that they put a lot of pressure on.
Yes.
There is some contact on some of that pressure. They're not contesting that contact. It's happened, I think, 3 times where there's been some contact. But every single time there's been a really great camaraderie, great spirit between the teams. It's like immediately, yes, you're absolutely right. Shake your hands, move on, let's go, let's play on. I do wonder if Crank would like them to pull back a little on that contact, or if both teams are used to this when they've been playing against each other.
Yeah, it's they're probably used to each other and their playing styles. I mean, they've played each other so much already throughout the season, and you don't get to play teams as often as they have. So it's like they know
It's
each
true.
other really well.
Yeah, and there's certainly from either team I've seen no malintent or even heated discussions.
It's been very friendly.
Yeah, so we're back to 4 women matching lineup. And as usual, Lucier with the pull.
Just out of bounds
Just
there.
gonna let that drop and let Mainwood collect the disc and bring it into the brick mark. Covered by Allard. And we see Hull just sloughing off his player just a little to stop any break around throw, which she's not looking for anyway.
Oh, nice under there.
Nice movement in the hands. That was a all women matching player point.
Love to see it.
I really do love to see it. I cannot lie.
Yeah.
So it was a beautiful point, and it was something that Victoria Tran had told us earlier, was that they do use their women, and that their women are very good, and have very good hands. And that was a clear example of how Crank can just move up the field with their women. And it's not to say that Quest wasn't putting good defense on. Their women, the defense was there. It's just it was nice, precise throws and nice, crisp cuts.
Definitely, and shout out to Mainwood, who started with the disc and ended with it that point.
You're right.
She worked her way up the field.
Kind of love it when a handler is able to do that sort of thing and not just throw it and then sit back, but to throw it and then keep the movement going, keep going up the field, up the field, up the field, and right into the end zone. Sometimes it's unexpected. You don't always see the handler being the one collecting the goals.
Yeah, and we've seen it on Quest side as well this game. Some of their handlers getting into the end zone. Crank pulling.
And Martel to Duguay, back to Martel. Very stretched out long stack from forcing cutters to go a long way to make their cut. So
Perry trying to
Duguay
get
and Martel just happy to throw with between one another.
Moving it up now.
Saint-Jean. Back to Martel.
He's looking deep, but...
And Duguay Higgins with a great cut and an amazing layout grab.
Keeping the disc alive.
And a nice conservation of greatness throw. Back over to Duguay and around to Saint-Jean with the one glove.
Great grab. Oh.
And just that inside look was just a little bit too inside, or not enough inside.
Perry with the disc now.
Number 5, Goulet, with the disc in her hands. We haven't said that name a lot, but she's been on the field. Nice throw. Back over to Perry and into the end zone to Podmore. And that's a break for Crank.
And great communication in the end zone. Two Crank players there. You don't want to collide. You don't want to bobble the disc. So great communication.
There's Crank coming back, and let's see if they can keep that kind of momentum and get themselves another break on the next point. Keep the hometown crowd happy. And as always, Crank wants to get as many points as possible. Keep the disc out of the hands of Quest on this.
Yeah, and they've been doing well. The score's getting tighter and tighter, so let's see if they can keep it up.
10-6, I believe. So Quest still with a comfortable margin, but not something that I think they're going to sit back and be comfortable with.
No.
And there is still a significant amount of time to play. So on defense, we have Simmons with looks like he's going to be taking the pull. Lydia Wong over on the far side. I think we see Hindman back on the field.
Yeah.
No, not Mainwood.
Nesbitt again.
Nesbitt again, who we're unsure if that is actually Nesbitt.
I think it is. And pull
landed
staying
in, collected by Primal. Oh, something's happened up the field.
Injury or?
Clearly an injury. I don't know what happened as he was running. There was clearly no contact with Quest, as Quest has not even made it that far back. I hope he's okay. He's grabbing at his head and his neck, so maybe we'll look away. So we see Quest sort of looking around, and we hate to see anyone get injured on the field, and really hope that he's okay.
Yeah.
So that is Simmons taking the injury sub, and getting some care from his team, getting into the shade. So good for him.
Yeah. And we saw a Quest player come out with an umbrella again. This friendship between the two teams is quite amazing to see.
And Somerville taking his place, still in the last back position with Kyle Cantal. And so the defense hasn't yet set up, so they're as they were when the injury was called. Poole looking over to Plumel for a little bit of a contested dump pass.
Yeah, quickly up the line, just doesn't
and
get
Hyman
it.
putting a lot of pressure on Forcier. Forcier with a quick give and go movement. Back to Plumel.
Looking
Lavoie
deep.
with the disc, looking for a huck, pulling it back, playing safe.
Good choice. Plumel has it, and he's throwing it deep to number
And which is
18.
a perfect choice as Lavoie is wide open in the end zone and making that 11-6 for Quest. I think Lavoie feeling a little bit at the end, like needing to go down on his knees after a good sprint into the end zone. And you're seeing the energy really coming up with Quest as they're getting their own cheers amongst their players, which is fantastic. And Crank, I'd like to see a little bit more energy from them as they're coming out. I know they're down, but they need to get some intensity out there from one another, share the energy amongst themselves. The game is far from over. We've seen comebacks before, and they shouldn't count themselves out as of yet. Actually, I think the game is it 11-7? I think I said it was 11-6, but it's actually 11-7.
So Quest on defense. Once again, Plumel has the disc in his hand ready to pull.
Yeah.
Such a key player to their team. We've seen him do everything this game.
It's an athletic player, Plumel.
For sure.
Nice pull.
Yeah, coming back.
Floating is giving the defense lots and lots of time to get there and put pressure to stop that first easy pass. But that was a nice pass. Nice vision to see the open player on the sideline.
And Crank looking for a cut. Quest trying to grab that one.
Over in the hands of Daly. And a tightly contested, well reeled in.
Looks like an injury there,
by
Plumel. Bid, so probably.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit winded on that bid.
For sure.
But that was beautifully reeled in by Tremblay-La Rochelle with a lot of pressure coming in from Plumel. There wasn't any contact, but there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And that's what they've been great at all game, Quest. Just a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So on the sideline now.
Back over in the hands of Hunter. To Cantal. And Daly with a visionary put into the end zone. Seeing Tremblay-La Rochelle all alone. I think there was a busted share that happened in the middle of the field between the Quest players. So 11-8, as we said, game's not over. There's a difference of 3.
Yeah.
Quest right now, their only job is to play clean offense. If they play clean offense and make no turns on offense and score every time they're on O, they're going to win this game.
Yeah, and Crank doing a really great job on O now.
Oh, where was that earlier in the game? At the same time, there was a little bit of like panic in the middle of the field, just in time, just up until the moment that they could see somebody wide open in the end zone.
What a great put into the front of the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
Just on our side here, beautiful and wide open.
So Quest starting on O, and
looks like
it is a 4 female matching player lineup. Pull coming up from Heinemann. And rolling at, stopping at the half field mark.
Inbounds though, looked like it could have gone out.
Right away to Saint Jean.
She always seems to be open for them.
And in the hands of Prevancher, over to Duguay, back to Prevancher, and looking at back to Duguay, back to Prevancher, and there's a pick call. Catch it. Yeah. There's a
Nicely done.
pick call, but I'm not sure when it happened, so does it stay with Prevancher or go back to Duguay? Because it is a 1 continuation. Even if it doesn't affect the play, there's only a 1 continuation throw after a pick has been called. So it is going back to Duguay.
And we talked.
You can see the stack is quite close to one another,
Yeah.
so it's easy for a pick to happen. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No worries. I was just saying we were talking about discipline before, and I think Quest is very disciplined. I mean, they're using 2 people right now, but constantly passing.
Nice. Over to Lucier. Back to Duguay. Back to Lucier with a nice cut up the line. And we see Cantal with the disc, throwing to Saint Jean.
Yeah, wow.
And that is 12-8 Quest.
That was
So
a
they
great point.
basically did what we said that they should do.
Yeah.
Cleano. Keep possession.
Think they're listening to us.
I suspect they might be listening to their coaches.
Probably, more like it. It was beautiful to watch that point, just being very disciplined with the disc, keeping possession, and not taking any risks.
Yeah, and we'd said this early in this match about Quest and their handler movement. When they don't see something up line, they're not at all hesitant to just keep that disc moving amongst their handlers. It's having played a lot in Quebec myself, it's a pretty typical type of movement coming from Quebec City. There's a lot of emphasis on handler movement, cuts up the lines, never leaving the disc too static, holding the disc, and just letting the cutters figure out their space and taking it when it's open.
That's exactly what they're doing.
And back on O, we've got Crank setting up again with a 4 women matching player lineup. We've got, who's got the disc right now?
That is Mainwood. Great run through.
That's a soft cap horn that has just gone on. So after this point is over, we will add 1 to the highest score, and the game will be to that.
Yes.
So it's either going to be a game to 13 or 14. And that is a foul call by Crank in the end zone and a discussion between the players. It was contested. I don't know if I didn't have a good enough perspective to say whether or not that was foul, but both players were definitely going up. Again, the observers are discussing amongst themselves to see if somebody had a good perspective. And there is a call that there is no foul. So everybody go back to where they were at the time the foul was called and tap the ground to put the disc in. Defense taps the ground to put the disc in, and then offense can move.
Quest with the quick throw to the middle.
Back to Allard, who's looking for a dump pass over to Ul. And I see Plumel is back on the field, so glad to see that he's back.
Yeah.
Over to Allard.
Great cut and throw.
Cool.
Wow.
With a
Big
great defense, I think that was from Daly. Daly still open, catching it through the hand block.
Looking for a reset.
Marco.
To Hunter.
Over to Mainwood. Back to Hunter.
Great cut under.
Daly. Over to Fontaine. Fontaine's been doing a lot of really nice cuts into the middle of the field.
She's been open.
And calling from the disc all the way from the other side of the field.
Hunter.
We see Hunter catching it, catching his breath and throwing it back in. So it is going to be a game to 13. First team to 13, and Quest starting this point on offense. So Quest has a chance to take the game in this point. Oh, was that hard cap? Did we miss?
The horn.
Well, I guess it was hard cap.
Yeah.
I thought it was soft cap. I apologize to our viewers. It was hard cap. That's game, folks. So, Quest, congratulations. Félicitations, Quest, qui va rentrer dans le top 8 pour le pool de top 8. Et Crank, malheureusement, ils vont lutter pour la 9e place maintenant.
Great game. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow.
We'll be back for a game in a few minutes.
A few minutes, yeah, sorry. And tomorrow we'll have some more.
Thanks very much.